Welcome to the Small Business Breakthrough Podcast. Okay, you've hired your VA, or maybe you're thinking about hiring a VA, but now you have a deer in the headlights look. What do I do? What do I give to them? You're probably wondering, how in the world could I give up my email? How could I let somebody else manage my calendar? Well, we're going to find out good solutions today because we have found the VA of VAs, right? We have found Cameron Dusky of BELAY Solutions, who is the executive assistant for the CEO of BELAY. So who better to tell us exactly how to get the job done than Cameron? Cameron, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jason, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and dive in.
A lot of people hire a VA and then they're like, what now? What do I give them? I don't want to give up anything. They're still operating underneath that mindset of I can do it better than anybody else because I can do it faster, or well, email only takes me a few minutes every day. Like, what is what they think? What mindset shift does a business owner have to go through in order to get the most out of their VA?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is such a great question. To your point, most business owners are stuck in that belief of, I can do it, better or faster myself. And, while that might, be true short term, it's actually exactly what is keeping them, over worked and really under supported. So I think to really unlock real growth, you have to reframe how you actually see your virtual assistant. They're not just there to check boxes. They're your accountability partner. They're your capacity builder. They protect your time. They reduce the friction and really give you the margin to operate like the business leader that you are, instead of getting pulled down into those weeds. And so I think the real shift is going from what can they help me with to what do I actually no longer need to touch. And yeah, that can be uncomfortable, especially if you are used to doing it on your own and you pride yourself on how well you execute. But I think it's important to know that delegation isn't about the loss of control. It's actually a strategic investment in your leadership. And so I would say start small, but be very clear. Give your virtual assistant the chance to really earn the trust through their results. And so you're probably asking, okay, where is a simple place to really begin? And I would say make a list, of the top three things that only you can do in the role that you sit in. And then everything else, that's going to be your delegation roadmap.
Yeah, that's absolutely imperative. I love the whole strategic leadership shift, like, and the mindset shift around this. Once
Mhm.
you've made that mindset shift and you're like, okay, I can give him control. What are some of the best first tasks to delegate as you bring on the VA? And what I'd love to hear most about inside of this is how do you frame to the people listening that that ding on your phone when the email comes in, or that ding when the text message comes in, is a really big distraction? And how could you give that responsibility to a VA where you could then set up structure in your day?
Yeah. So I think once the mindset shift happens from, I'll do it myself to, okay, what can I actually let go of? To your point, the next question is, where do I even start? And so honestly, that part can feel very overwhelming. But here's the thing, where you start matters. And so if you try to handle something that is super vague or really nuanced right out of the gate, you're probably going to end up frustrated and then end up taking that task back, right? And so instead, start with the things or the tasks that are very clear. They are repeatable, and they already have some sort of a preference or process, or maybe even a small SOP. Or a past example that somebody can follow. So I'd say start with things that are tedious, time consuming, or constantly really interrupting your flow. So think calendar management, scheduling meetings, or even rescheduling meetings, inbox triage. So filtering out spam or just foldering certain emails for you, booking travel, or even personal items, right? Those are all still really important things that need to be done. But I think the real question is, do you need to do them? And so, kind of a gut check is if it's draining your energy and it's not actually driving results, then it's probably time to delegate that. Because we talked about, isn't just about simply offloading the tasks. It's really about removing that friction to really give you back the time you need to do the things that actually move the needle. So, kind of a practical tip, if you will, is do like a Monday morning list. Write down 5 things that you find yourself doing, maybe every Monday or every week, or any repetitive type tasks that don't really require your expertise. And then that list is exactly where your virtual assistant should start. Let them take the wheel, and then you'll really see your margin grow. Um, and I know, do you want me to dive in? I can dive into email. Um,
We can hit that here in just a second.
okay.
I wanted to come back. I'm going to put full transparency here. I've been a customer of Belay for many years. So
Mhm.
the just as the listeners are out there, you can call me a fanboy or whatnot. But one of the big things that actually saved me is Cameron talked about personal.
Mhm.
So it saved me. It potentially even saved my life because when I first signed up, it was the VA that actually reached out to start getting me on annual checkups because I'd never cared about it before. I'd never done it. And then I went and found out that I had to make some changes in my life or things were not going to be great. And I was a lot heavier at that point. I was 65 pounds heavier than I am today. And that was a big changing element because my assistant's like, we need to get you doing this, and just took it, made the schedule. I was living by my calendar. And so I just showed up. So we'll jump into there's the one question always seems to be that leaders wrestle with is like, how do I give up my email? And I, even after having used certain VAs for years, have a hard time answering this for people as like, how do you give up the email? So let's reframe it and what does that healthy inbox partnership look like with a VA?
Yeah, email is usually the hardest thing for leaders to really hand off, and I get it, right? Your inbox is full of sensitive information, conversations, high stake decisions, and things that really feel personal. And so the idea of letting somebody else in, can be a little scary. But I think here's where the real shift is delegating your inbox doesn't mean that you are actually giving up control. It's simply about building a system that's going to work with you and not against you, so that you can really stop spending, your most valuable time on things like scheduling or replying to emails and acknowledging them, and actually focus on bigger picture things like vision and strategy and team. And so what does that look like? So for Trisha and I, it's a two-part system, and it also requires effort on the virtual assistant side. So let's start with step number one. Let's talk about the folders. So Trisha and I keep it very simple. We use a 3-folder system to manage inbox to keep her both informed, and also to protect her time. And so what that looks like is we have folder number 1, which is labeled the Cameron folder. And so that's simply like my folder, if you will. So if an email comes through and it's something that I can handle and I get to it first, I will drag and drop it to the Cameron folder. And then that just signals to Trisha that, hey, I got it, don't touch it. And then if she gets to the email before I do and she wants me to take action, she will simply drag and drop it to the Cameron folder. And that just keeps us both aligned. And it just signals, again, Cameron's got it, don't touch it. Folder number 2 is the read folder. And so these are for things that Trisha needs to read, absorb, or make a decision on. And we specifically use this folder when Trisha is on PTO, traveling for business, or is in meetings 90 minutes or longer. And it's just a way to keep her inbox very clean and streamlined. So again, the read folder are for things that Trisha needs to actually read, absorb, or make decisions on. The last folder is called the done folder. And these are for things that I have actually taken care of or closed out, so that Trisha just has that visibility. There is simply no action needed. It simply serves as an FYI for her. And that's it. So there's no fancy technology. It is literally just clarity. It is simple and it works. Now, part 2 to that, when I mentioned, it requires the VA side, tools are great, but I think the real magic is also in the voice alignment. And that is something that takes time and intention. And so one thing that I do every day regularly is I spend the first 30 minutes of my day reviewing Trisha's sent mail. And so I look at how she responds to emails, the tone that she uses, even words that she doesn't use. It just helps me better understand her voice, so that I can write, as her and not just for her. And that makes a huge difference because that's going to increase my capacity to really fully manage her inbox when I can start replying as her. And the best part is that the person on the other end actually doesn't know that it's really me, not Trisha. So when you get there, that's like, that's really good. But listen, the goal isn't to cut the leader out of their inbox, right? It is to make sure that they're spending their time where it's needed most and that they're not stuck replying to threads. So if you're just starting out, a quick win is to try this 3 folder system. Have your virtual assistant set it up and give it a trial. It is simple, it's clear, and it's going to give you immediate structure to build on. You're going to eliminate confusion, you're going to reduce the back and forth, and you're going to end up creating a shared rhythm for inbox management that's going to avoid duplication and honestly keep everything organized.
Yeah, that is a very powerful system and super simple to go through and use. I love the fact that you actually spend time reviewing sent items and understanding the voice of Trisha, especially because you guys work remote. So you're not
Mhm.
necessarily in the office hearing each other talk all of the time in different interactions. So it's very, very powerful. One of the tricks that that I've used with my VA is um, in the sense of like we use a similar, very similar folder system, slightly different. I have a JSON folder, and we have newsletters, and then
Mhm.
responded and things like that. But one of the tricks that I've used with my VA is the when uh, when we first started going, I would get distracted by all like running a new business and getting inundated with messages and with people trying to get my time. They're just trying to
Mhm.
sell me something. And so
Yeah.
we learned really quick identify what those messages are, and she cleared my inbox of of those distractions. That allowed me to focus
Mhm.
on what I needed to be working on to continue to drive the business forward. And we saw immediate results in the first 7 days of being able to say, like, oh, wait, I have all of this extra time because I'm not trying to filter out or decide, and decisions take time and mental energy to
Mhm.
as to what decision of what is a sales item or what is not a sales item and what actually takes needed my attention. Hey, real quick, did you know that most small businesses don't actually achieve their breakthrough? And it's not because you don't care. It's all because you're trying to do it alone. That's why I created the Momentum community, is to help you change that. I want to see you achieve the breakthrough that you've been waiting for. It's where we committed entrepreneurs come and get focused, get accountable, and finally build a business and life that you are meant for. If you want to learn more, click the link in the description below and enjoy the rest of the episode. So, very good. One of the other parts that I know I have struggled with in the years, I've had multiple VAs at two different companies, and I'm sure our listeners would love to hear is like how do I give up calendar items like scheduling when all I can do is um, and when I can go schedule stuff, I could book a plane, book a hotel, and book a rental car in like less than 10 minutes of my time. How do I give that up and feel like I'm getting value out of my VA by giving them the opportunity to schedule things for me?
Yeah, I think it goes back to about setting up systems, right? Having some sort of playbook that you kind of start right out the gate with your virtual assistant so that they have that list of preferences, and they can execute flawlessly and book all of those appointments, all of those travel bookings, knowing what your preferences are. So, those things that I handle for Trisha, I have a tracker of her preferences, does she prefer a window seat over an aisle seat? All those nitty gritty details are so important. And I think once you hand that information over to your virtual assistant, those are kind of like the keys to the kingdom. Then they can go and execute and really own your calendar. But I think it all starts with clear communication between you and your virtual assistant.
Yeah. So beyond the logistics, What separates a good VA relationship from a great one? What are some of those rhythms or habits that you have found essential in building the trust and efficiency with Trisha?
Yeah, I think, what separates a good VA from a great one goes again beyond just checking the boxes. A great virtual assistant is always one step ahead. They are anticipating your needs. They are not waiting for direction. They're proactive. They are a forward thinker. And I think that's where that real trust starts. And so with Trisha, I focus on outcomes and not just the tasks at hand. So I'm not asking, well, what does she need me to do? I'm asking, what do I keep, how do I keep this moving without her having to actually think about it? And so that level of ownership is really going to change everything. Emotional intelligence plays a huge role too. Knowing when to act, when to ask, and even when to pause. That discernment is really what helps me show up as an extension of Trisha and not just somebody who simply supports her. We have a standing one on one every Monday morning. We never miss it. And it's a game changer. I lead it. I own the agenda. I come prepared with the updates, the questions, the recommendations, right? I have been thinking ahead, and maybe I have found conflicts on the calendar, but I'm coming with solutions and recommendations because the goal is to lighten her mental load and not add to it. Communication is key. I over communicate on purpose. I think that that's so important because I don't want her ever wondering, where things stand. I protect her time fiercely, right? I'm the gatekeeper and the protector of her time. If something doesn't align with her top priorities, I move it or I handle it myself. Again, going back to using that discernment. It's important to know that trust like this doesn't happen overnight. It's built. It's built through consistency. It's built through clarity and really showing up each day with excellence. And that's really what allows me to operate with that level of autonomy and make decisions on her behalf to really support her at the highest level. And so this kind of partnership, it's not plug and play. It is built with time. It is built with intention and a whole lot of communication.
Cameron, I'll hit you with a different question to go inside of that because you've been with Trisha for a few years here. But when you and it hasn't been that long though. How long have you been Trisha's assistant? And then as question number one, and then a follow up to that is how long did it take you to really get into a good rhythm to set expectations? And this is coming from the expectation that you're a full-time executive assistant, not a part-time. We'll get into that part next.
Yeah, so I have been with Trisha for just over 4 years. And I would say that I'm still learning, right? We're constantly learning. But as far as feeling, in the rhythm, I was set up with great tools and resources, and that really helped me kickstart in supporting her very well. Again, going back to being proactive and really intentional. But I would say realistically, maybe about a month or two into our relationship, did I really start to feel very confident and comfortable, making some decisions. Again, it's all about the onboarding process and how that works for you. And I had a wonderful onboarding process here. And so that really set me up for success so that I could really kickstart because things move very fast around here, as we know. And so, it can't be slow.
Yeah, it's always going. And I want to encourage everybody to reach out if you're interested in a VA, to reach out to belaysolutions.com and talk with their folks and figure out what else they could do for you. They do virtual staffing across the board, but from a virtual assistant standpoint, if you're on the fence and you really think you need the help, which I guarantee if you're a leader and you're building a company of any size, I'm a small company now. There's really only 3 of us and I use a VA. So of any size, reach out and get some details from Belay because they've been a fantastic partner to work with over the years. Cameron, when somebody's just starting out, they're starting out with maybe 15 hours a week or 45 hours a month. and it's part-time, and they get concerned that there's an email that is not getting responded to fast enough, because if you're only working part-time, you're not sitting there responding to emails as soon as they come in. What's something you could tell a person that's interested in belay, how to get over that hurdle?
Yeah. So again, I think it goes back to really setting expectations, right? If you have X amount of hours, it's really figuring out how you best are going to utilize the hours that you have. What are the most important things that you need to focus on? Again, going back to the folder system, that's something really great. And I think you could even edit that, based on your virtual assistant and how many hours, you have for them, modifying that so that there is no duplication, there is no crossover, and that the inbox still gets managed and maintained.
That's fantastic. And I would add to the somebody that's worried about it is, remember that you want to treat people as though you want to set the parameters. So if they expect an email back from you the second you send it, you might not be setting the right parameters at scale.
Mhm.
So we'll leave it at that one for those that are listening. We've learned a lot today about how best to use your VA, and the nuggets and best practices here are fantastic. One thing that sparks my curiosity is, what's the future look like? What The world is changing almost daily with AI. So what
Mhm.
is your viewpoint on how AI will continue to change the landscape of how VAs are used today?
Yeah, so my viewpoint on AI and virtual assistants is it's not either or, it's both. I believe that people are the greatest asset, in any organization, and I think that the future of support doesn't mean choosing between human connection and technology. I think it means combining them to really unlock what is possible. I don't think that AI is here to replace virtual assistants. I think it's here to amplify them, to augment their impact, to really expand their bandwidth, and elevate their workflows. Because, we know AI can automate, it can summarize, and it can really speed things up. But what it can't do is replicate human intuition, emotional intelligence, or the discernment that it takes to really support leaders at the highest level, with excellence. And so I think that's the difference, and that's where the magic is. To me, it's simple. It's empower great people with powerful tools. And so the future is human and tech. And so I think when you end up combining the two, you're going to get the support that's not just efficient, but it's going to be unmatched.
That is so powerful to be able to keep that combination going. Cameron, thank you so much for being a part of the Small Business Podcast. It has been a great to hear from the VA of VAs. I mean, for those that don't know Trisha's story and you've made it to this part, she was the original VA of Belay when she started, doing quick math, 14 years ago, I believe, 2011. And now is the CEO of the company, and they continue to grow and make leaps and bounds in efforts. And to have you on has been invaluable to the listeners out there, I'm sure. So again, thank you so much for being a part of the Small Business Breakthrough Podcast.
Thank you, Jason. It was a pleasure.
And for those listening out there, if you have any interest in a VA, feel free to reach out to me direct. I'm happy to have the conversation, but go to belaysolutions.com and check out the information they have there. Reach out to their sales team, have a conversation, and see what it looks like. A VA has literally changed my life, and I will be a big proponent of having one from here forever, in my opinion. And it has been a massive change and a massive breakthrough. So, for those that made it this far, I appreciate you listening. If you would like to hear more episodes from the Small Business Breakthrough Podcast, it's right here if you're watching on video. If you're live, well, click the download button, subscribe button, and you'll get next week's episode when it comes out. Till next time.